The classified document had been buried for 75 years. When Dr. Elena Mercer finally held it in her trembling hands aboard the research vessel Mermaid Sapphire, 3 words destroyed everything she believed about her grandfather, responsible for deaths. The man she had worshipped her entire life, the war hero whose Navy Cross hung above her fireplace, whose bedtime stories about the USS Langley had shaped her career as a marine archaeologist, was now accused of deliberately sealing a hatch during the ship's final minutes, trapping 16 sailors inside a burning compartment. Those 16 men never surfaced. And the only proof of his innocence, or his guilt, lay 200 feet below the Java Sea, entombed inside the wreck of America's first aircraft carrier. Elena pressed her palms against the ship's railing and stared at the dark water. She was 48 years old, and she had spent the last 20 years chasing this ghost. Her long silky hair whipped in the tropical wind, and her fair skin had already begun to burn under the Indonesian sun, but she barely noticed. Everything, her career, her family's honor, her grandfather's legacy, came down to what they would find on the ocean floor. "You look like someone who just found out Santa isn't real." She turned. Ryan Cole leaned against the doorframe of the bridge, arms crossed over his chest, a crooked grin on his face that made him look younger than his 25 years. He was the expedition's ROV specialist, a tech prodigy with an aesthetic build, fair skin that somehow never burned, and a sharp tongue that he wielded like a weapon. He had been assigned to her team 3 weeks ago, and in that time, he had managed to annoy her, impress her, and make her laugh, sometimes all within the same sentence. "Santa is real," Elena said flatly. "He just has a classified file with the Department of Defense." Ryan's grin widened. "So that's what that envelope was. I saw Captain Torres hand it to you. You went white as a ghost." He stepped closer, his expression shifting from playful to genuinely concerned. "Elena, what's in that document?" She hesitated. She had told no one about her grandfather's connection to the Langley. To the rest of the team, she was simply the lead archaeologist on a joint Indonesian-Australian expedition to locate a historically significant wreck. But the truth was far more personal, and far more dangerous. "My grandfather served on the USS Langley," she said quietly. "He was one of the last men off the ship before she went down on February 27, 1942. He always told me he tried to save everyone. That he opened every hatch he could reach before the order came to abandon ship." She held up the document. "This says he did the opposite. That he sealed Compartment 7 to save himself, and 16 men burned alive because of it." Ryan was silent for a long moment. The humor drained from his face, replaced by something raw and unguarded. "My father was Navy," he said. "Died on deployment when I was 9. They gave my mom a flag and a letter that said he was brave." He paused. "I spent years wondering if the letter was true, or if they just write the same thing for everyone." Their eyes met. For the first time since he had joined the expedition, the wall of jokes and sarcasm fell away, and Elena saw the wound beneath. She recognized it because she carried the same one. "Then you understand," she said. "I have to find that ship. The USS Langley was never supposed to be legendary." She began life as the USS Jupiter, a humble coal-hauling collier launched in 1912. But in the aftermath of World War I, as navies wrestled with new technology and the restrictions of the Washington Naval Treaty, a handful of visionaries saw something extraordinary in her steel hull. Rather than build an aircraft carrier from scratch, the United States Navy chose a radical path: convert Jupiter into a floating airfield. At Norfolk Navy Yard, workers stripped away the massive coal handling gear, cleared out the cavernous holds, and built a full-length 534-foot wooden flight deck. Below, engineers installed elevators and a hangar bay for dozens of fragile biplanes. On March 20, 1922, she was recommissioned as USS Langley CV-1, America's first aircraft carrier and the ship that would change naval warfare forever. Commander Kenneth Whiting, a submarine veteran turned aviation advocate, led the transformation. He introduced arresting wires to catch landing planes, crash barriers to protect crews, and signaling systems to guide pilots home. Every innovation was born from trial, error, and risk. On October 17, 1922, Lieutenant Virgil C. Griffin climbed into a V-7 biplane and became the first American pilot to take off from a carrier deck. The wooden runway beneath him was narrow, windswept, and untested. He flew anyway. By 1928, Langley's crew had turned chaos into choreography, launching 35 planes in just 7 minutes during fleet exercises off Hawaii. The operation stunned Army defenders on Oahu, proving for the first time that carriers could project power far beyond the horizon. Elena knew every detail. She had grown up hearing them from her grandfather, William Mercer, who had served as a damage control officer aboard the Langley during her final mission. She knew that on February 27, 1942, the ship had been carrying 32 P-40 fighters south of Java when 16 Japanese G4M bombers found her. 5 bombs struck home, igniting aviation fuel, flooding the engine room, and turning the flight deck into an inferno. Captain Robert McConnell gave the order to abandon ship, and the escort destroyers Edsall and Whipple pulled survivors from the water before scuttling the burning hulk at 1,429 hours. What she did not know, until today, was that a surviving officer had filed a sealed report accusing her grandfather of cowardice and murder. If this story is already sending chills down your spine, hit the like button right now, because what happens next will change everything. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. You do not want to miss what they find at the bottom of that ocean. The expedition had been at sea for 11 days when the enemy arrived. Not the ocean, not the weather, but a man. Dr. Victor Hale stood on the deck of a chartered research vessel that appeared on the horizon at dawn, flying a university flag in a smug sense of entitlement. Hale was a military historian from Georgetown, sharp-featured, silver-haired, and utterly ruthless in his pursuit of academic fame. He had published the article that unearthed the sealed report about William Mercer. He had named Elena's grandfather a coward in a peer-reviewed journal. And now he had followed her to the Java Sea. He can't do this, Elena said, gripping the railing. This is a permitted expedition. He has no authorization from the Indonesian government. Ryan stood beside her, watching Hale's vessel through binoculars. He's staying just outside the exclusion zone. Legally, he's allowed to be there. He's just hoping we do the hard work and he swoops in for the credit. He lowered the binoculars. I've met guys like him before. They don't create anything. They just tear down what other people build. He's not wrong about the document, Elena said quietly. The report exists. A lieutenant commander named Hargrove filed it 3 days after the sinking. He said he saw my grandfather seal Compartment 7 while men were still inside. One witness, Ryan said. One report. Filed during the chaos of the fall of Java, when everyone was running for their lives. He turned to face her fully. Elena, you've spent 20 years studying this ship. You know her better than anyone alive. Trust what you know. She looked at him. The morning sun caught his face, and she noticed, not for the first time, the quiet intensity in his eyes, the way his humor fell away when something mattered. You're dangerously persuasive for someone who fixes robots for a living, she said. He grinned. The robots are easy. It's the stubborn archaeologists that give me trouble. Despite everything, she laughed. Days blurred into nights. The multi-beam sonar swept broad swaths of the seafloor, painting a digital map with every pass. The Java Sea was shallow but treacherous, its bottom littered with the debris of war. Each contact had to be investigated, catalogued, and dismissed. Ryan and Elena fell into a rhythm. He handled the technology, she interpreted the history. They argued over sonar contacts, debated drift patterns, and challenged each other with a ferocity that occasionally alarmed the rest of the crew. You're wrong, Elena said one night, pointing at a sonar return. That's too far north. Langley was hit at approximately 7 degrees south. Current drift would have carried her southeast. And you're ignoring the subsurface current data from 1942, Ryan shot back, pulling up a chart. There was a seasonal reversal that year. The drift would have pushed her northwest by at least 2 nautical miles. Where did you even find seasonal current data from 1942? I have my sources. Some of us read things that aren't from the 1920s. Some of us read things that aren't Reddit threads. He clutched his chest in mock offense. That was cruel, Dr. Mercer. Cruel and accurate. She bit her lip to keep from smiling. Just adjust the search grid. Already done. 3 hours ago. He turned his laptop to show her. I was going to tell you. I just wanted to see the look on your face first. Worth it. Elena opened her mouth to reply, but the sonar operator's voice cut through the compartment like a blade. Contact. Large metallic object. Bearing 275, depth 180 feet. The room went silent. Every head turned to the screen. There, in the blue-green glow of the sonar display, was a shape. Long rectangular. Unmistakable. Elena's heart stopped. After 75 years, after 20 years of searching, the USS Langley was staring back at her from the bottom of the Java Sea. But as the ROV cameras powered up and the first grainy images flickered onto the monitor, Ryan saw something that made his blood run cold. The wreck was not alone. Another ROV, sleek, black, and unmarked, was already circling the site. Someone had found the Langley first. If your heart is pounding right now, drop a comment below. Tell me, do you think Elena's grandfather was innocent or guilty? And make sure you are subscribed, because the next part of this story will leave you speechless. Victor Hale's team had been running a covert survey for days, operating from the edge of the exclusion zone under cover of darkness. His unmarked ROV was already documenting the wreck, and Elena knew exactly what he was looking for: Compartment 7. If Hale found the sealed hatch first, he would control the narrative. He would photograph the evidence, publish his findings, and cement her grandfather's legacy as a coward and a killer. The truth would not matter. Only the story would. We have to get down there first, Elena said, her voice tight. Our ROV is faster and has better cameras, Ryan said, already powering up the system. But his unit has a head start. Then we don't have ours. Ryan looked at her. In the blue light of the control room, her face was fierce, luminous, and utterly resolved. He had spent 3 weeks watching her command a research vessel with the precision of a Navy captain. She was brilliant, stubborn, and beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with appearance and everything to do with the fire behind her eyes. He was falling for her. He knew it was reckless. She was 23 years older, his boss, and in the middle of the most important mission of her life. But Ryan Cole had never once chosen the safe option. Elena, he said quietly. We'll get there. I promise. Something passed between them, unspoken, electric, and terrifying. She nodded once and turned back to the monitors. The next 6 hours were the longest of their lives. Ryan piloted the ROV through the murky water with surgical precision. The cameras revealed the wreck in haunting detail: riveted steel plates, the collapsed remains of the flight deck, elevator openings choked with silt. Fish drifted through the hangar bay like ghosts. The turboelectric machinery lay twisted but recognizable. Elena guided him through the ship's layout from memory. Turn left at the next bulkhead. Compartment 7 is on the starboard side, second hatch from the aft end. Copy. Visibility is dropping. Slow down. The deck plating may be unstable. Then, there it was. A hatch. Closed. Sealed. The metal was warped by heat, blackened by fire, but the locking mechanism was intact. Elena's breath caught. Ryan. Can you get closer? I can. But Elena, whatever we find in there, it's going to be real. Are you ready? She closed her eyes. For a moment, she was 7 years old, sitting on her grandfather's knee, listening to him describe the wooden flight deck, the sound of engines, the way the sea looked from the railing of the ship that started it all. "I'm ready," she said. But the ROV's battery warning flashed red. Ryan had no choice but to pull it to the surface. 6 hours of work, and they were minutes from the truth. Elena stood on the aft deck, staring at the stars. The Java Sea was flat and black, and the Southern Cross hung low on the horizon. She heard footsteps and knew, without turning, that it was Ryan. "Battery will be full in 4 hours," he said. "We can go back at dawn. Hale's ROV is still down there." I jammed his signal. She turned sharply. "You what?" "Accidentally. His ROV was operating on a frequency very close to ours, and I may have accidentally caused some interference." He shrugged, the picture of innocence. "These things happen in remote maritime environments." Elena stared at him. Then, despite everything, she laughed. A real laugh, the kind that comes from somewhere deep and unexpected. Tears followed, sudden and fierce, and she turned away. "Hey." His voice was gentle now, all the armor gone. "Hey. It's okay. It's not okay. If that hatch was sealed from outside, it means he did it. It means he killed those men. Or it means the explosion warped the frame and the hatch jammed. Or someone else sealed it. Or 100 things we haven't thought of." He reached out and took her hand. His fingers were warm and calloused. "You don't convict a man based on one report written in a war zone by someone who may have had his own reasons to lie." She looked at their hands. "You're very wise for someone born in 1999. And you're very stubborn for someone who's always right." She laughed again, softer, and did not pull away. They stood like that for a long time, two people from different generations, bound by grief, drawn together by something neither fully understood. This story is far from over, and the most shocking discovery is still ahead. If you're feeling this journey, share this video with someone who loves history, mystery, or a great story. Trust me, they'll thank you. At dawn, they sent the ROV back down. Hale's unit was gone. The corridor was quiet. The hatch waited. Ryan maneuvered the mechanical arm to the locking mechanism. Decades of corrosion had fused the metal. He applied pressure. The lock groaned, shifted, and broke free. The hatch swung inward, releasing a cloud of silt that blinded the cameras for 30 agonizing seconds. When the water cleared, the camera revealed Compartment 7. Elena gasped. The compartment was empty. No remains. No bodies. No evidence that anyone had been trapped inside. But on the far wall, barely visible beneath a crust of marine growth, was something that made her hands shake. Scratched into the steel with a knife or a nail, deep enough to survive 75 years of salt water, were words. A message. Left by someone who had been inside this room during the ship's final minutes. Ryan zoomed in. The letters were crude but legible. And what they said changed everything Elena thought she knew about her grandfather, about the sinking, and about the truth the ocean had been guarding all along. Do not stop watching now. What was written on that wall is something no historian has ever seen. The truth is seconds away. The message read, "WM open hatch. We got out. Hargrove sealed it behind us. God forgive him. WM. William Mercer." The room was silent. Elena read the words 3 times. Then she understood. Her grandfather had not sealed the compartment. He had opened it. He had gone into a burning corridor, found the men trapped inside, and led them out. It was Hargrove, the same officer who filed the accusation, who had sealed the hatch behind them. Then Hargrove wrote his report, reversing the roles, turning the rescuer into the villain and himself into the witness. The 16 men who died had not died in Compartment 7. They had died elsewhere, in the engine room flooding, in the fires on the flight deck, in the water after abandoning ship. The sealed report had been a lie. A coward's alibi. Elena wept. Not with grief, but with relief so overwhelming it felt like breaking apart and being reassembled. 20 years. 20 years of doubt, of whispered questions, of wondering if the man who shaped her life had been a monster. And the answer had been waiting on a rusted wall at the bottom of the Java Sea, scratched there by a grateful hand in the last minutes of a dying ship. Ryan's voice came through the headset, rough with emotion. Elena. The camera is recording. High definition, timestamped, geotagged. Hale can publish whatever he wants. This is the truth, and it's on video. She pressed her hand against the monitor. Thank you, she whispered. She was not sure if she was speaking to Ryan, to her grandfather, or to the unknown sailor who carved the truth into steel while the world burned around him. Victor Hale's article was retracted 6 weeks later. The video evidence, combined with reanalysis of the crew manifest and survivor testimonies, proved conclusively that Hargrove had fabricated his report. Elena's grandfather, William Mercer, was posthumously recognized for his actions during the sinking. The wreck of the USS Langley was officially designated a war grave. No artifacts were removed. The site was preserved with care and respect, a silent monument to the ship that changed naval warfare forever. From her humble beginnings as a coal-hauling collier, through her transformation into America's first aircraft carrier, through the pioneering flights of Griffin and Whiting, through the record-breaking launches of 1928, to her final desperate mission in 1942, Langley had carried more than aircraft. She had carried the future. As for Ryan, he stayed. Not on the expedition, which ended 2 months later, but in Elena's life. Their connection, born in pressure and tested by history, proved stronger than either expected. He made her laugh. She made him think. He challenged her assumptions. She grounded his restlessness. It was unconventional, unexpected, and entirely their own. On the last night of the expedition, they stood together on the aft deck one final time. So what now? Ryan asked. Back to dusty archives and academic conferences? Maybe. Or maybe I'll learn to pilot an ROV. You'd be terrible at it. I'd be exceptional at it, and you know it. He laughed. Then he was quiet. Elena. For what it's worth, I think your grandfather would be proud of you. She looked at him. The boy with the sharp tongue and the gentle heart. He would have liked you, she said softly. Because of my charm and devastating good looks? Because you don't give up. He smiled. Not the smirk. A real smile, rare and unguarded. Neither do you. They stood together as the ship turned north toward home, leaving the Langley to her rest in the dark water below. The first American aircraft carrier. The ship that proved planes could fly from the sea. The ship whose crew endured fire, bombs, and the relentless tide of war so that future generations could soar. Her wooden flight deck was gone, her steel hull encrusted with coral, her story nearly lost to time. But the truth had surfaced at last, carved into metal by a hand that refused to let courage be forgotten. Every aircraft carrier sailing today, every jet that launches from a flight deck, every pilot who trusts the deck beneath their wheels, owes something to the men who dared to fly from Langley's runway. Their legacy is not rust and wreckage. It is the sky itself. Some truths take 75 years to surface. Some heroes wait a lifetime to be recognized. But the ocean remembers what the world forgets, and the story of the USS Langley reminds us that courage does not expire, that sacrifice does not fade, and that the truth, no matter how deep it is buried, will always find its way to the light. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the people who changed history and the secrets the ocean still holds, then hit that subscribe button and join this crew. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that the truth is always worth fighting for. And leave a comment below telling me whose story you want to hear next. There are thousands of ships on the ocean floor, and every single one of them has a story waiting to be told. Until next time. Fair winds and following seas.